Eric here with the Paperback Warrior blog, podcast, and YouTube channel. This is the first ranking video of 2025. In this video, I'm ranking my top 10 reads of January. As always, my disclaimer is that these are books that I reviewed on the Paperback Warrior blog last month. You'll find written reviews of each of these 10 books on the blog, and remember to subscribe if you haven't already. I just posted this week's podcast episode on February 3rd, which is all about pulp and Western author Bill Gulick, so be sure to check that out. So let's jump into this ranking for best reads of January. Number 10 is Don Pendleton's Eye to Eye. This is the debut in his series of private eye novels starring a psychic detective named Ashton Ford. There were 6 of these books total, published between 1986 to 1988. Ashton Ford is a good-looking California detective who's a type of fixer. His psychic powers just come and go, and he has no real control over them. In this novel, Eye to Eye, he's hired by a woman named Karen who wants Ashton to show her how to have a psychic orgasm. Let me just say that again, just in case you missed it. In this novel, Eye to Eye, he's hired by a woman named Karen who wants Ashton to show her how to have a psychic orgasm. I'm not making this up. But it turns out someone is out to kill her, and that's the bulk of the book, thankfully. I didn't really care for it. The plot of strained family relations central to an inheritance is a recycled plot that I've read in numerous detective novels, but that wasn't the main issue. The biggest problem is the new age nonsense that Pendleton spouts out through Ashton on just about every page. I can't recommend this book to anyone. Again, this is Eye to Eye by Don Pendleton. Number 9 pick is The Cassandra Crossing by Robert Katz. This is actually a novelization of the movie that was released in 1976. This book came out a year later by Ballantine. Katz co-wrote the screenplay for the movie, so he decided he would just write a novel based on the screenplay. The problem is this book has so many characters. The plot is that a man helps break into a secure government laboratory and then gets infected by a disease. He then escapes the authorities and boards a train. Now everybody on board is getting sick, and the government and police have to stop the train and quarantine it, which seems so simple. Stop the train, quarantine, cure, but it's just a mess. Again, this was The Cassandra Crossing by Robert Katz. The Woodkin by Alexander James comes in at number 8. In some ways, this book is just equally as bad as my 10th and 9th picks. This is a horror novel published in 2023. The main character is a guy named Josh who had a really tragic childhood due to a household fire that killed his mom. He's now suffering through a broken marriage, so he decides to go on a week-long hiking trip on the Pacific Coast Trail in America's Northwest. He ends up experiencing lots of weird things like finding a body, a forest cult-like tribe, a strange town, and something referred to as a woodkin that wants a feast. As much as I wanted to like this book, it just doesn't make any sense. The whole thing seems like a dream, and nothing is clear about the book's ending. Hard pass on this one. Again, it is The Woodkin by Alexander James. Coming in at number 7 is Death World by Harry Harrison. This is where things start to take a turn for the positive. The book was published in 1960 and is the first of 3 science fiction novels. Yes, there's Death World 2 and Death World 3. But in this one, Death World 1, a professional gambler named Jason uses his psychic abilities to win a huge payout from a casino on a distant planet. That's using your psychic powers to your advantage, not teaching women how to have a psychic orgasm. The whole thing was set up as an ambassador named Kirk fronts Jason the money in order to get a big payout. Kirk wants the big payout so he can buy more weapons for his planet Pyrus. Jason gets a nice payout as well, but Jason decides he wants to go with Kirk to the planet Pyrus to learn more about it. It turns out that everything on Pyrus is deadly. Plants, animals, even the air. Kirk and the people of Pyrus use firepower and training to fight the deadly opponents so they can one day live on this planet. But there's a backstory of a pioneering people that live on the planet and have already learned to peacefully live with the vegetation and alien life forms. So what's their secret? Jason is thrust into a type of civil war on this planet. I thought this book was really good, but it had a little bit of an off-kilter payout in the plot. Overall, it was an enjoyable read. Again, this is Death World by Harry Harrison. Number 6 is Doom of the Dark Delta, the first of James Reasoner's new sword and sorcery series, Snakehaven. I covered this book on the January 20th podcast episode. This is a throwback to the pulpy era A former soldier named Travail is washed ashore on a mysterious island. There he must contend with giant snakes and a barbaric people while trying to save a woman's life. It's a short read at just 100 pages, but Reasoner is an excellent storyteller and does a lot in the short page count. This one was really good. Again, it was Doom of the Dark Delta by James Reasoner. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe. My goal before the middle of the year is to reach 2,000 subscribers. That would make me really happy. I think looking at the numbers, I only need about 60 people to subscribe, so that should be easy, right? Ranked 5th on my best reads of January is Midnight Vintage by authors Josh Viola and Sean Eads. This is a new short story collection by Crystal Lake Publishing with an introduction by Stephen Graham Jones. There's so many awesome stories in this collection. My favorites were the ghost story The Making, the unique offering titled Many Carvings, which was kind of like Shirley Jackson's The Lottery with a Wicked Witch feel, and a story called The Bidden, which was a horror tale set in a cornfield. I also like the post-apocalyptic type of story titled Bright Rain. This was a fun collection. Again, it's called Midnight Vintage by Josh Viola and Sean Eads. The 4th place goes to Girl on the Beach by Bruce Cassidy. The book was originally published in 1960 on Beacon. It's out of print now, but you can find a copy of the book on archive.org. In this novel, an artist living in a coastal town in Connecticut is trying to determine the identity of a beautiful young woman that he rescued from drowning. She has a mysterious past and seems to be searching for something in his house. There's mystery involving stolen paintings, a corrupt business, and there's gunfire. This book was sexy, it was mysterious, and it had a really great atmosphere. Again, this was Girl on the Beach by Bruce Cassidy. Earning the bronze medal is my 3rd place pick, The Island of Dr. Moreau. I mean, it's The Island of Dr. Moreau, for God's sake. How could it not be near the top? This is a classic monster book by H.G. Wells. A man is rescued from the ocean and placed on an island that's like one big experiment. This crazed Dr. Moreau is conducting experiments on animals and humans to accelerate evolution through macabre surgeries. The book has a little bit of everything, but it's mostly just darn disturbing. It has a horror feel to it, but also a sense of jungle and nautical adventure. I knew it would be great just based on its iconic status, and it definitely delivered the goods. This book is awesome. My 2nd favorite book of January is Hunter at Large by Thomas Dewey. This one's being published in a new edition by Starkhouse Press imprint Black Gat Books. A cop named Mickey endures the rape and murder of his wife by 2 hired assassins. They shoot him and leave him to die, but he survives. The narrative is like one long road trip as Mickey searches towns across the country trying to locate the 2 men that ruined his life. The problem is he has no idea who they were or what they were even after. This was so compelling, and it's a slow burn, but definitely keeps your attention. I thought the ending was a rewarding payoff. Again, this was Hunter at Large by Thomas Dewey. And the best book I read in January was the very first Sherlock Holmes novel, A Study in Scarlet. This was originally published in 1887, and it's the first meeting between John Watson and Sherlock Holmes. The introduction was great, and I enjoyed the early chemistry that the two shared. They're investigating a corpse found in an abandoned house. The first half is the overall investigation and detection. The second half takes place a few years before the murder even happened. Through this revealing history, readers learned why the murder happened and who was responsible for it. Surprisingly, the second half is like a solid Western tale. It's set in dry and dusty Utah as a man battles the Mormons to save his daughter. It was such a great book overall, with a real highlight being the second half. So there you have it, the quick rundown from book 15 to number 1 on my top reads of January. I think what's really interesting is when I look back at my picks for January, or just really my reading in general, I mean, I've got a book from 1887 all the way up to a book published just a few months ago. It's sort of all over the place and really symbolic of what Paperback Warrior is all about. I just love books. It doesn't matter from what era, I just love books. So subscribe to this channel. You can get more videos just like this one, as well as podcast episodes. Also keep reading paperbackwarrior.com for at least 4 to 5 new book reviews weekly, plus a weekly video. The podcast happens every 2 weeks, and you can access all 113 episodes thus far on any streaming platform: Spotify, Amazon, you name it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.